What's up, guys? Today we've been going over the new solar elemental well mod, Bountiful Wells, which in my opinion is not only the best elemental well mod, but possibly the best mod in general in Destiny 2 right now. With all the elemental well builds I made this season, there pretty much isn't a single one where I want to go back and want to put this on in place of a different mod. It is that good and completely changes the way you can take advantage of this system. So first in this video, we'll be breaking down exactly what this mod does and showing off how I would use it in just 3 different builds, one for each character. But like I mentioned, almost every single build with elemental wells, this is a mod you want to be using. So from the compass, you can purchase this mod. It's a 2 energy cost solar mod. And what it says it does is elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. So if you look at what that does in the game, first starting off with just one singular elemental ordnance, throwing it at a shank, we get 1 solar well as expected. But now if we go ahead and put on the new mod, Bountiful Wells, and just keep the 1 singular stack of ordnance, as you see, which I didn't think this was going to happen when I first read the perk, is it doubles to 2. So just by default, it makes any singular well mod create 2 without even having to apply multiple stacks of it. But now we do double up on ordnance, we create 3 solar wells, then we put on 3 stacks of elemental ordnance. It'll go to 4 wells per single grenade, so it's going up by 1 per stack. And by default, with just a single one, it was 2. So far it's always 1 more than the amount of mods you have on. But then if we put on all 4, it will still only be 4. So it seems to be capped at 4. So having more than 3 of a single mod does absolutely nothing. So already this mod is absolutely crazy. Being able to create 4 elemental wells from a single action is crazy. But what makes this mod truly special in my opinion is the way you can combo and stack it with multiple different ways of creating the wells themselves. And the way the math works out, it's always better to have this on in every single situation. So if we look at that, if we just use 2 elemental well mods, so let's say we have ordnance and also explosive well maker, so when we throw a grenade we should create 2 solar elemental wells, and obviously that is exactly what happens. But let's say we want to drop one of the well mods and put on Bountiful Wells instead, so still just the 2 slots, but now we have Bountiful Wells and ordnance. We once again still create 2 from the same vein. So right there, nothing too crazy, it's an equal trade-off. But once we start adding more, this is where the magic begins. So we have 3 different ways to create elemental wells. So we have ordnance, explosive well maker, and melee well maker. If we throw our grenade, which will proc all 3 of the mods, we'll create 3 solar elemental wells. But with the same 3 slots, let's just take off one of them, for example, melee well maker, and put on the Bountiful Wells instead. So still using only 3 elemental well mods, we will now from the same vein create 4. So now we're gaining 1 extra well from the exact same actions and the exact same amount of total well mods equipped. And this just becomes better and better the more you add on. So let's say we're using 4 elemental well mods. Usually we'd be able to create 4 solar elemental wells, but if we drop one of them and put on Bountiful Wells, we'll go to 6. So we gain 2 from just simply changing 1 mod. And you can do the same thing with all 5. Usually you would get 5, but if you drop 1 for Bountiful Wells, you'd go to 8. So now you're gaining 3 from just simply changing one of the mods. So no matter what situation, it simply allows you to create more elemental wells from the same amount of total mods on your character. So looking at how we would throw this into some builds, starting off with the Warlock on Bountiful Dawnblade, because obviously it's one of the most broken things in the history of the game right now. Using whatever weapons of choice, I usually use this loadout right here. And once again, whatever exotic you like, I like Fellwinter's. You can pair it with Necrotic Grip or even Winter's Guile, doesn't matter. And now looking at our mods of choice, we're gonna have 1 melee well maker. Then we also have 1 elemental ordnance, and on our wells we also have 1 grenade kickstart along with thermoclastic blooming to create all the orbs from the chaining explosions. Then we're gonna have 2 stacks of explosive well maker because they'll work with both our grenade and our melee. We also have 2 innervations on to get grenade chunks when we pick up the orbs of power. And finally our last one is gonna be Bountiful Wells along with particle deconstruction. So now with all this going on, we should be able to create 2 from melee well maker, 2 from ordnance, and also 3 from explosive well maker. So when we throw a simple single grenade, it'll proc all those different mods and create 7 wells instantly from a single grenade. And if you pick up all 7 of those wells, you get enough energy to get your next grenade. Not only that, you'll get enough energy for your entire melee and also your entire rift. So it's truly infinite abilities just from simply throwing a grenade. And the thing about all these wells you'll be spawning in is that they're not just for you, they're for everyone. So in reality, in a 3-man activity, you're actually creating 21 solar wells, and in a 6-player activity, you're actually creating 42. So yeah, kind of pretty good. Then moving on to the Titan build is gonna be pretty similar. First, you can use Middle Tree or Bottom Tree Solar. As you guys know, I've been really liking Bottom Tree with Sunspots this season, so we're gonna use that at first. Once again, pretty much the same weapon loadout. First, looking at our exotic armor piece for this build, we're going to be using the Heart of Inmost Light, which is when you use an ability, so a grenade, melee, or barricade, it'll empower the other two abilities. Empowered means abilities have faster regen, melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. And this should be a 10% increase in your damage for your abilities per stack of empowered, which will pair very nicely with Roaring Flames on middle tree if you want. And looking at our mods, will be the exact same ones as the Warlock build, so Bountiful Wells, 2 Explosive Well Makers, then a Melee Well Maker, and also an Elemental Ordnance. Once again with Thermoclastic Blooming and Particle Deconstruction. So now with this build, both our grenade and our melee will be able to create 5 Solar Elemental Wells. There is a cooldown on the Explosive Well Maker being able to create the Elemental Wells, so if you use your grenade and melee back to back, one will create 5 and the other will create 2. But if you do space them out, they will both create 5. But either way, like we mentioned on Warlock, picking up 7 matching Elemental Wells is already enough to give you all of your abilities back. So once again, truly infinite abilities for not only you, but all of your allies, because they will also have those 7 wells on the ground for them, because they are per person. And on bottom tree, you're going to be getting your abilities so fast between Sunspot and also the Heart of Inmost Light. Then on middle tree, if you want to rock that, it will increase your ability damage even further, and you'll be one-shotting majors and absolutely destroying champions. And finally, moving on to the Hunter build, using most of the same stuff. The first thing we're going to be using is going to be the Glacier Grenade. Then we have Grim Harvest like usual, but now we have Shattered Dive. So it's going to be pretty similar to my previous Hunter builds, but now also a grenade build. And we have Fissures, Shards, then also Bonds on. Looking at our weapons, we have the Scepter, along with whatever primary of choice, along with the Reed's Regret. And once again, with this build, we're going to be using these Star Eater skills to get that extra super energy from each orb. Then looking at our mods of choice, starting off, we have Thermoclastic Blooming. And once again, we have Bountiful Wells to double all the different ways of creating the wells. And we're going to have 3 copies of Melee Well Maker, which will allow us to create 4 Stasis Wells whenever we use our Shuriken. And our final one will be either Explosive Well Maker, or you can try Ordnance. Explosive Well Maker will be a little bit more consistent, while the Ordnance will be better because you're on Stasis. We also have 1 Impact Induction on to help get our grenade back when we do damage with our melee. Also, when we pick up the Orbs of Power, we have 2 Innervations on to help get our grenade back also. And after I was playing with this build for quite a while, I decided to change out Bonds for Hunger to help get my melee back even faster and have truly infinite shurikens. But overall, the whole point of this build is you use your melee to create 4 Stasis Elemental Wells. You can also use your Glacier Grenade and Shadow Dive into it, which with Explosive Well Maker will create 2 Solar Elemental Wells. And like I mentioned, you could use Elemental Ordnance instead, which can work with Glacier Grenades. But for my testing, if you're running Fissures, which is very important, a lot of the kills from the Glacier Grenade will count as the Shatter damage, which does not proc Ordnance. And that is why I use Explosive Well Maker instead, to guarantee the 2 wells per grenade use. And just like the previous builds, you just go back and forth between your grenade and melees, and they're a truly infinite combo. And yeah, those were my 3 builds for this mod. And like I mentioned, you can use this mod for every single Elemental Well build, and it will instantly make it better, just because of the way the math works and how many more wells you create from just simply swapping one mod for this one. Also, since all these builds are solar or stasis, you could convert them into champion builds using Thermoclastic Strike for overloads. You can put on an AR for anti-barrier, then obviously have fusions for unstoppable. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the commentary. Just some strike gameplay left with the Hunter and Warlock build. Anyways, like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.